examples.
Peanut butter.
Yeah,
2 hours before, peanut butter.
Mini nacho supreme.
peanut butter toast.
Not as you, Tim.
Banana.
A banana.
Yeah, peanut butter banana.
Orange juice, coffee, and water.
Okay.
That's a pathway.
Wheat toast.
So typically this is the hardest meal for people who are running a long distance to get in because they're nervous. And especially with morning runs, how many people have you heard complain about GI issues? Tons, right? So who knows how long it takes for your body to digest food?
3 or 4 hours.
About 3 hours, yeah. That's typically what I say. So if someone has a really, really hard time with digestion, waking up at 4 o'clock if their run is at 7, eating something at 4, going back to bed, and then going for their run is going to help them. And a lot of people do it. I know.
We do,
Yeah.
but like you said earlier, a lot of folks are up anyway because they're nervous for longer runs and
Right,
stuff.
so just eat.
So get up and eat something at 2:33. Get up at 6. You do your deal, and then you're ready to roll by 7.
Yeah. So,
Works.
and the other thing that we want to make sure people are getting is carb and protein. So like a banana and peanut butter would be a great choice. We want to get that protein that keeps you going for a little while. Cereal is a good choice as long as we have some milk in it. It's got some protein. Basically, you want to stay away from lots of fiber typically. Fiber is not our friend while we're running.
No.
So again, rule of thumb, avoid fiber within 24 hours of a run, especially if you have a lot of GI issues. So that's our rule of thumb. Mid-run, I think, is the biggest challenge for most people as far as eating, or at least biggest question that a lot of people have. What do we want to make sure we get mid-run? What kind of macronutrient? Carbs. And this is where all of our healthy nutrition rules go out the window. We want to have fast-acting carbs. So Gatorade, goo, anything that's just a carb. I mean, someone could eat icing for all I care, because that is going to get you fast carbs really quickly. Yeah, if you can tolerate a thing of icing,
Do a Dunkin' honey.
go for it.
You see gummy bears and things like that though on long runs in a lot of places, and on ultra runs for sure. They have Oreos and all kinds of stuff that's just straight up sugar, Coke.
Yeah.
Black Coke.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, flat Coke is a big one. So yeah, basically things that are not typically healthy for you are good for a mid-run. We also want to talk about electrolytes a little bit. Electrolytes are extremely important, especially if we're a big sweater. We sweat a lot. We really want to make sure we replace our electrolytes. Again, low fiber, the last thing you want to do is have like a fiber 1 bar as you're running. That would be quite possibly the worst thing you could do for you, which I think everyone understands. But you'd be surprised what people will do. So, you know, especially if you're working with customers, really talk to them, because they're going to say, well, should I have a granola bar while I'm running? I'm going to walk every, 10 minutes. Probably not the best idea. Or talk to them about what granola bar they're having, those kinds of things. Another big thing is something that's easy to eat, and I think that's where goos come into play, is that they're easy, you get them over with, people like that. It takes a special kind of person to take a goo. I don't like goo personally because I don't like the texture, the consistency, but everyone has their preference. Rule of thumb is a ½ gram to a full gram of carbohydrate per pound per hour. So if I'm a 100-pound person, clearly I'm not, and I'm running an hour, how many grams of carbohydrate do I need?
At least 50, if not 100.
50 to 100 grams. That's a lot. That's a rule of thumb, but that also tells people that they're probably not getting enough.
Right.
Okay? Like last night in Grand Rapids, I had a guy who was training for a marathon, and every mile he'd have 1 sport meet. Oh, right.
Every mile or every hour?
Every mile, 1 sport meet. And so we talked after, and that's not enough. And he was a 200-pound guy. He was not little.
Right.
Sorry.
Was he trying to lose weight? I mean,
He was trying to lose weight, yes.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than most people do.
It is a lot more than most people do.
I mean, one goo says 1 every 45 minutes.
Right.
One little sport.
Just
I
one.
know,
Yeah.
but the recommendation
Oh,
for
yeah, that
for a 100-pound person, you were saying 50
So you can think
That's like,
2 goos an hour
That's a-
for a 100-pound person. But you also have to take into account if you're drinking Gatorade or any kind of, beverage that has
2
carbohydrate.
goos an hour for a 100-pound person.
That's what the math is.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I was to understand that the body in a high activity like that can't really consume more than 300 calories. Anyway.
I've never heard that data, but I can check on that for you.
You read it on the internet, so it must be good.
Yeah, the interwebs told me.
Okay, so that's mid-run. And really, a lot of times I give people a higher target than what they need because that encourages them to do more. And typically, we underestimate what we do. That makes sense.
So I can eat a cheeseburger every hour when I'm running.
Sausage.
Basically, a sausage biscuit with cheese. All right.
So that's the sausage biscuit.
Every corner.
That's right.
Okay, so after exercise, who eats after they exercise? What kinds of things?
Chocolate shake.
Chocolate milk.
Protein
What was
shake.
that?
protein.
Cookies?
It's like muscle milk.
Okay, so the main research now shows that chocolate milk is the best, as in it's not there's no added benefit from doing like a protein drink of any sort. That is debatable, people debate it all the time, but most of the research that I have read, like 99%, has said that chocolate milk is just as good. It's cheaper, most people think it tastes better, and it's easier.
Is that because your body can only handle, it's like 20 grams, something like that, right, at a time? of protein?
Yeah, your body can handle any amount of protein at any time, but it's whether or not it's turned into protein or if it's just stored as fat.
Okay.
So when we think about metabolism, when we consume carb, fat, and protein, no matter how much we consume, if we don't use it, it's going to be stored. And if you don't use it, it's going to be stored as fat. So basically, if we're consuming too much protein that we don't need, it's going to be stored as fat anyway.
So here's my question. What, the information you're giving us, taking in per hour for a run, say we're doing a 10-hour, or during an event, most of us, it sounds like, are not taking in that much. And so then afterwards, should we take in more because we didn't take in enough during the event or the run?
Yeah.
It's, at that point, it's too late. So it
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
I mean, you're going to be replacing your stores, but you're going to be replacing your stores for the whole 24-hour period.
Uh-huh.
But you're going to get the most benefit in that first hour after exercise. But it's not going to improve your performance that day.
Right.
It's going to improve your performance later.
And your recovery.
Okay.
And your recovery.
To improve your recovery.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I was just wondering if you were including a product like Durox in that, but it's not doing as much good as chocolate milk. Because I always use the Durox for muscle recovery.
So yeah, the studies that I've seen don't necessarily specify what product they're using, whether it's Endurox or not. They normally just say like a protein drink of some sort. I'm sure if you emailed them, you could figure out exactly which one. But in general, across the board, there's no added benefit in doing a protein drink post. You're just as good with chocolate milk. Yeah.
In terms of like pre-workout and post-workout meals, how important is like the glycemic index for the like carbohydrates that you're taking in? Because I've heard that like pre-workout, you should eat like low glycemic index carbs to not like have a rebound in your blood sugar levels like right when you were about to start your exercise, and then post-workout you should take in like some more simple sugars. Is that like really important, or?
Who knows what glycemic index is? But someone explain, just so that everyone knows what glycemic index is.
Just like a measure of how your insulin reacts to a given carbohydrate.
Yeah, so the glycemic index is actually based on a slice of white bread. So what they did is they look at the metabolism of a slice of white bread and how fast basically that carbohydrate gets into the blood sugar, or into the blood. A slice of white bread would be 100. And then, for example, up or down, depending on what you have, would be based on that. So like sugar would be higher, because obviously it's going to go straight in. Wheat bread is going to be lower, because it has fiber, it's going to take longer. So glycemic index is kind of debated, because how often do we just have a slice of white bread, right? So we have bread with peanut butter. We have those kinds of things. So that's where they go into glycemic load. Has anyone heard of that before? Okay, so our glycemic load is comparing or including all of those other foods that we eat at the same time. So we look more now at glycemic load than glycemic index of the individual thing because it changes. And the glycemic load is going to be different for every person because everybody metabolizes different. So it's just a basic overall science. So with those tools, I use them more as of a tool of how it's going to hit your blood sugar. Yes, something with a higher glycemic index or a higher glycemic load is going to hit your blood sugar faster. It's going to spike your blood sugar. If you're diabetic, you're going to go through the roof, right? When we look at it with exercise, typically during exercise we want high glycemic index products because that's going to keep our sugar up. Depending on what time you eat before exercise, glycemic index and glycemic load do play a part, but timing is the most important thing. So, and everyone's different. Some people are more sensitive to sugar than others. So, you know, if someone eats a cinnamon roll and they're fine and they don't notice a high, feeling of high blood sugar, then they might not be as sensitive or need to worry about that as much. Whereas if someone has a cinnamon roll and they're bouncing off the wall, then they probably shouldn't have that before exercise. They should probably have something that's got a little bit more like a banana. Did that kind of answer? So timing?
In terms of post-workout though, is it important to get like a faster digesting carb to?
It's not going to make, it's more of timing again, that we really want to stay within that 20 minutes to an hour at the very most. So there is a lot of research that says a 4-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein for post-exercise. I would use that as a rule of thumb. Obviously, we want more carbs than protein, but it doesn't have to be 4-to-1.